On this day in Tudor history, the 1st of August 1534, Catholic conservative Germain Gardiner penned a scathing attack on the late reformer and martyr John Frith. His work, A Letter of a Young Gentleman named Master Germain Gardiner, wherein men may see the demeanour and heresy of John Frith late burnt, was printed in London by William Rastall, nephew of Sir Thomas More. But who was Frith? And why did Gardner feel compelled to write such a fiery rebuttal over a year after Frith's death? John Frith was a brilliant scholar, educated at Eton and King's College, Cambridge, before being called to Cardinal Wolsey's Oxford College. There he came under the influence of reformist ideas and fell foul of the authorities. After a brief imprisonment for heresy, he fled to Antwerp, where he worked alongside reformer and Bible translator William Tyndale. His theological views, denying the existence of purgatory and rejecting the literal interpretation of the words "this is my body," would ultimately lead to his arrest and execution in 1533. He was burnt at the stake alongside Andrew Hewitt, a young tailor's apprentice who shared his beliefs. Frith's writings, composed even in prison, helped establish his posthumous reputation as a Protestant martyr. And martyrologist John Fox praised him not only for his doctrine, but for his godly life. But not everyone admired Frith. Germain Gardiner, a devout Catholic and nephew of Bishop Stephen Gardner, saw Frith very differently. Ironically, Frith had once studied under Stephen Gardner at Oxford and was for a time admired by him. But his theological trajectory soon veered into dangerous territory, at least from a Catholic perspective. In his 1534 tract, Germain Gardiner set out to dismantle Frith's legacy. This wasn't a mild disagreement. Gardiner's writing is sharp, emotional, and uncompromising. He paints Frith as a proud heretic, someone who refused to submit to the authority of the Church, preferring his own judgment to centuries of tradition. One of Gardiner's major themes is Frith's rejection of authority, both ecclesiastical and royal. He accuses Frith of setting himself above church councils, bishops, and even scripture itself, twisting texts to suit his views. Gardiner is particularly incensed by Frith's denial of purgatory and the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. Gardiner defends these doctrines vigorously, drawing on both scripture and church tradition, and argues that Frith's views are not only wrong, but spiritually dangerous. He likens Frith to early heretics like Arius and Pelagius, men who in Gardiner's eyes used clever arguments to lead others astray. For Gardiner, Frith isn't just mistaken, he's arrogant, deluded, and a threat to the souls of others. Another striking element of the tract is Gardiner's concern about the power of print. He laments the growing influence of new books and the way heretical ideas like Frith's were being spread among ordinary Christians. He sees this as a corruption of faith and a sign that the old order is under siege. Above all, Gardiner calls for humility and obedience. He urges readers not to rely on their own interpretations of Scripture, but to trust in the Church and its learned doctors. For him, the path to salvation lies not in questioning doctrine, but in submitting to it. Germain Gardiner's tract offers us a vivid insight into the Catholic response to the early Reformation in England. It's personal, passionate, and deeply polemical. And it reminds us just how high the stakes were, because in the 1530s, theological disagreement wasn't just academic, it could get you burnt to death. I'll give you a link to read Germain's tract for yourself, and actually, I need to give you a warning here, it's very heavy going. And by the way, Germain himself came to a sticky end. In 1543, Germain was implicated in the prebendaries plot to remove Thomas Cranmer from his position as Archbishop of Canterbury. Germain was acting as an intermediary, it is thought, between the plotters and his uncle Stephen Gardiner, Bishop of Winchester. The bishop survived, but not so his nephew. It was the start of Germain's downfall. On the 7th of March 1544, he and priest John Lark were hanged, drawn and quartered at Tyburn for denying the royal supremacy. Germain was also accused of being in contact with Cardinal Reginald Pole, who'd incurred King Henry VIII's wrath after being outspoken in his opposition of the king's annulment of his first marriage. John Frith died a Protestant martyr, and the Catholic Church recognises Germain as a martyr, beatifying him and John Lark in 1886. Had you heard of Germain Gardiner and his attack on Protestant martyr John Frith? Do let me know in the comments. And if you've enjoyed this video, then please do give it a like. Consider subscribing to my channel and hit that bell so you never miss a dive into Tudor history. I'll see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.